Welcome back to Generation Orange. It is so good to have you today and to bask in this wonderful one day for Monday. One day, did you get that? Was that funny? It's a beautiful Monday evening coming out of Denver. We got the final score at Broncos 28, Cincinnati 3. Thank you so much for joining us here on Generation Orange. My name is Adriana. This is my father. Unless this is your first time joining us, it's so good to have you here. It's been a rough last few weeks. We film the show once a week, and this is the first time in 3 weeks that we've been able to come on here with some smiles on our face, huh?
Yeah, well, we were happy that they won week one, but I feel like this was kind of the first week that they just took care of business. You know, they did what we hoped that they do. Looked good in all three phases and controlled the game, So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's a wonderful thing to celebrate. We have a lot of stuff to talk about today, and we're going to get into all that stuff. But before we do, guys, it's so important to us that you like and hit that subscribe button. If you haven't done it already, just go ahead and do it. We'd love to take you along for the ride. My dad and I are just starting up here, but we've got some pretty incredible stuff to share with you guys, and we would just love to have that opportunity. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, click the little notification bell so that you never miss a Generation Orange episode. So, we do this every week. Just start, give me your first initial thoughts, feelings. I think I can guess a little bit about how you're feeling, but let's
Yeah.
break it down.
Yeah, no, I feel great. I mean, it's um, because I was pretty confident the Broncos would win this one. Uh, the Bengals, all due respect, without Burrow, you know, it's kind of they're really just a shell. And even with Burrow, they're kind of a one-sided. They're just an offensive team, right? So,
Right.
and they were in Denver. Denver was reeling after a couple of heartbreaking losses. So, kind of one of those ones where it wasn't really a surprise, I guess maybe, but at the same time, um, it was encouraging. We saw really good defense, right, start to finish. The Bengals did have a nice opening drive where they got, I think, to the five, had to settle for a field goal, and then after that, they were not even in. I could be wrong on that, but
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. The Broncos were. No, that's right. The Broncos were able to keep him out of Denver territory the remainder of the game, which was awesome.
it's
Honestly, the
remarkable.
score kind of speaks for itself. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, the
100 and
defense, week in and week out.
yeah. Yeah, I think 160 yards of offense the Bengals had today, something like that. So, oh, and maybe the defense must have had 4 or 5 sacks. I didn't look.
Yeah, I mean they got the stats right here. Let's just take a quick look. One thing that kind of stands out to me is the defense had a spectacular game, but we actually lost the turnover battle when it's all said and done.
Really?
Bo Nix
Well,
had
it's
the
okay.
interception, and we didn't
Right.
have any, which it's not much to complain about when um, your defense is that efficient. I mean, Nick Bonito just had a heyday as
Yeah.
usual. It is so fun to watch him play. It is so awesome to have Alex Singleton back, and it makes that Dre Greenlaw injury just a little bit less annoying.
Yeah.
I'll be honest.
Jonathan Cooper had a game. Cooper is one of those
Yes.
guys, and I don't know if he had a sack today, but he gets a lot of pressures at key moments. He's chasing the guy into one of the other guys for the sack, or he's chasing the quarterback into the
Mm-hmm.
to away to the out where he's got to throw it away. He's just always hustling
He's
and
involved on every play. Yep.
right, pretty much.
It's never a supply. It's never a surprise to see that big number zero
I
looking at
love his
you in the
number zero.
replay
It's
after
like, yeah,
after he makes. I think that's awesome. It's a little bit
yes,
of edge. And I think him and Nick Bonito are just a really fantastic pair.
yeah.
It's so awesome to see them, and you can tell also that they're developing week in and week out, which I think is even cooler. I want to ask you because we always got to reference the Twitterverse or the Xverse, whatever you want to call it these days. I'm a Twitter person, personally, twitter.com.
I'm still not really
Um,
involved.
there's a lot of conversation about, you don't want to be. There's a lot of conversation about Riley Moss. And this kind of obviously has always been a thing. And naturally, when you line up on the other side of the defending Defensive Player of the Year,
Right.
you're just going to get thrown the ball a little bit more often. So I've been a Riley Moss defender, and I think you have too. But it seems that at times, the last few weeks, in one-on-one coverage, he's been exposed a few different times on big plays, and that happened a little bit today. But this was early on, but it got called back for a penalty, I believe, and so the play didn't count. Is that something that is at all alarming to you?
So for Riley, yeah, I've heard some of the scrutiny this past week, and I like Riley. The one thing, and I think we both heard this on our way back from LA last week, and I'm not gonna, mention any who, but people were saying, well, um, Riley Moss just has too many plays where it's really close, and he almost swats it. And no,
Well,
look, Riley is still, he's a third year guy, but he played almost none. He played very little his rookie season, so he's essentially a second year guy. I think he's got great speed. He's got good instincts. He tackles well. I think generally he covers well. Has he given up some plays? Sure. Especially, against Jamar Chase, we saw the game last year, and it has come out, kind of confirmed that he was still gimpy from that injury last year when he played the Bengals, and he had a rough day. I also think I'm going to kind of go on a tangent here. We live in such a uh, immediate gratification society, especially on the Twitterverse. And you may not remember this game. A few years ago, it was Pat Surtain's second year. We're playing Carolina, and DJ Moore lights us up for like 11 grabs, a couple touchdowns, 130 yards or so. Most of that was on our guy, Surtain. Okay? He had a rough day. It happens. There's not there's not a corner in the league that hasn't been cooked. Okay? That's the reality. So,
yeah,
if we're going to break down Riley, for the last few games, I would say he had a rough day against the Colts. To me, that's where he was legitimately getting beat by a step. He had a play against the Colts where he dives and he tackles the guy before he's tackling the guy before the ball gets there. He's beat so bad, and
yeah,
the receiver still makes the catch. They flag it, but if he doesn't do that, the guy scores a touchdown. I'm
right.
not going to say that Riley hasn't been beat. He has. But at the same time, he's out there. Most of the plays that he does give up, he is right there. I mean, that play to Keelan Allen last week, that's just a great play. And that happens. It happens to
Mhm.
Pat sometimes. I'm not going to say that I'm not crowning Riley, right? But at the same time, I think he's a very quality CB2. I think he'd start on most teams in the league. I think he'd be a CB1 on a lot of teams, realistically. If we're really talking brass tacks, I mean, he's been targeted. I think I saw something. He's been targeted the most in the NFL so far. Okay, and he hasn't given up the most. I think he's given up 2 touchdowns, and you know 48-50% of the completions. It's not a really high percentage of completions that he's given up. But I just don't want to carry too much into these stats after 3 weeks. I want to go with what we see, and I see a guy out there competing. He did struggle early against who's number 5? Higgins. Higgins had him beat once or twice maybe early in the game today, but it's T. Higgins. Oh, and then we didn't hear from T. Higgins
Yeah,
for 3 quarters. If we
right.
were
You're talking about. Go
go ahead.
ahead.
No, I'm just saying. So it seems like he had a really good game just now. I think he gave up 1 or 2 catches. He might have had I know he had one interference, but you know, we can live with that. I think they only threw the ball for
Yeah,
100
you're talking
yards. So
about, right, you're talking about T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, who are, quite frankly, probably two of the most talented wide receivers in the league, both on one roster. And, I've never been somebody, or let me kind of restart by saying, it's always kind of annoyed me. Every now and then you'll get the sports fan who might say something like, oh, why couldn't he catch that? I could catch that. Or it's
right.
just some kind of like, you don't really have the deepest understanding of what it actually takes to be an athlete. And I don't, and you don't necessarily either, and not, at least not at the professional level. However, I think that there's something to be said about guarding some of the world's fastest and most agile men on earth, all while you're running backwards.
Yeah.
And having to literally anticipate this player knows where he's gonna go. There is an elaborate scheme specifically designed to trip you up as a DB. And Patrick Surtain, I don't know if you heard, I'm sure you probably did, but Vance Joseph had some really wonderful things to say about him in the media earlier this week. And basically the profile that you get for Pat Surtain is this is a guy with elite ball knowledge who has a very a sharp sense, and that he's very agile, and that really there's just not another corner like him. And it's hard for me to believe that in that cornerback room, some of that isn't going to rub off on Riley Moss.
Well,
I
no
agree
question.
with you. I'm a Riley Moss defender.
Yeah.
I think he's wonderful, and I think that's just the nature of. You said he's the most targeted DB in the league. That doesn't even surprise me naturally, because what are you going to do? Throw to Pat Surtain?
Well, and there's another thing going on here. And we lost a tough game with San Diego, the Chargers last week. There's a knee-jerk reaction with a lot of fans to just put the blame somewhere. Okay, so the guy that's on the other end of some of these plays, it's and even Surtain. God, people were bashing Surtain after giving up 4 or 5 catches and 42 yards.
God
I think
forbid.
3 of them were those long cross plays that were like 3 or 4 yard receptions. So it's kind of a that position, like you said. And you're right, it's such a difficult position when you're going against a similar athlete who knows where they're going and you don't, right? And so not only that, you can defend them you can defend them 9 times out of 10. If they make one big play on you and it's for a touchdown, that's what the fans remember, right? So Riley, I think if we actually looked at the tape in that Charger game, probably had an outstanding game. From what we did see, he tipped the ball that became a pick, right? And then then we see the play he gave up to at the end of the game. It was a perfect ball where that happens. The game is designed so that perfectly executed offense typically beats excellent defense. So yeah, we don't need to go too much on Riley. We're on the same page, and not everybody has to agree, but hey, we'll see what happens. I'm confident with him moving forward. They're not going to put in Jedi Barron over him anytime soon. They're not going to move McMillan over there. He's our starter, and we should be grateful to have him.
Yeah, it's really wonderful, and I think the best case scenario for a DB on your team is you really don't want to hear their name a lot in a football broadcast, because if you hear their name, it means they probably got beat. Unless you're Patrick Surtain, of course, and you have a lot of accolades for the commentators to talk about. But otherwise, you don't really want to hear about those guys. I remember Justin Simmons was kind of that way. He almost flew under the radar, I think, in a lot of people's books back there in the secondary. But that was, in my mind, that was actually a really great thing. But I agree with you. We don't want to harp too much on the secondary. Let's talk a little bit about the offense. I think there was a lot of good today. I'll just start with the elephant in the room, which at least what I think is the elephant in the room, and I think you'll agree. Broncos have their first 100-yard rusher since probably 2023.
Yeah.
Just 500 plus yards of offense in general. It was pretty well balanced on the floor and in the air. I was really impressed with Dobbins. If there's one little asterisk in my thoughts on this, and I think you will also agree, Sean Payton can be a little bit stubborn with his personnel. And I think they fed Dobbins a great amount today. I just hope that that sticks around. I don't,
Yes.
as much as I love Harvey, you want to see him develop. Well, there's a reason that J.K. Dobbins is here in the first place, and there's a reason he's here and he's on a short contract. You want efficiency and you want numbers out of this guy as soon as possible. And the Broncos took care of business tonight, but now it's on to Philly, and they must run the ball against the Eagles. We can't drop Bo back 30 to 40 times against that defense on the road, or it's going to be a tough day for the Broncos. So a lot of good stuff to build on today.
Yeah, just to kind of continue on, I agree with you with about Dobbins. I was encouraged. There was this part of me, this thinking about this game, because to me this was just football 101. J.K. Dobbins has been electric. He's been one of the best players in football the last few weeks, if you really look at him. And with what we've been going through, a couple of heartbreaking losses, Bo's still figuring things out. This is a weaker team with a weaker defense. We just needed to give JK the ball today. And I was just thinking somehow Sean was going to outthink himself and not do that. And he did it. Not maybe as much as I would have liked, but he did it. And I think there's something else that we need to consider. You remember last year when we did not have a running game and we didn't have a tight end, but so it kind of worked out for the greater good because we weren't going to win the Super Bowl last year, but Bo was continually thrown into the fire. We really needed to ride Bo. The offense went through Bo, if you remember. We couldn't just establish the run, right? We ran the ball, we attempted it, but now we have a running game. The running game is there, okay? So it is time to use it. It is time to we don't need to press Bo down their throat. I still think Sean is kind of doing that more than he needs to. Like in watching this game, it didn't matter because we dominated the game regardless. But I think what you're kind of leading to, I believe that it's just there's really no reason not to lean on Dobbins now. Okay, and if he's gonna be injury prone and get hurt, then why not use him while he's healthy? Okay, and then there's another school of thought to this too. He's not a guaranteed to get hurt. Sometimes guys struggle with injuries early in their career, and then they figure it out. They stay healthy. Isaac Bruce was one of those guys, a wide receiver who played for the Rams in like the 90s, late 90s through his hamstring or something. First 2-3 years of his career, he was out of the lineup all the time. But then he didn't get hurt for years and years. So what I'm saying is, Dobbins could be that guy. He's still a young guy, and we see how he's playing. Also, I know he's only on a 1-year deal, but I don't know that that's a guarantee that he's going to be gone. This Bronco team has this regime with Sean and George Payton. They've shown that they'll keep guys around. We talked about it before. There wasn't much turnover this last offseason. I think it was
such a relief.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think since the beginning of free agency, it was like, wow, this is pretty much the same team coming back. So what I'm getting at is I don't know that JK is necessarily. I think there's this perception that okay, he's a 1-year guy while Harvey gets up to speed, but I don't know that that's the case. He seems very happy in Denver. He's playing very well. I don't think it's out of the question that he stays healthy and then gets re-signed to a 2 or 3 year deal or something. I don't know.
You bring up a good point, and I want to get back on track to the game, but I'll just say this: there's something to be said about, obviously there's the Walmart money, the Walter Penner ownership group, which is really great, but realistically, what you're talking about is an organization that for its entire life, duration of existence, has been dedicated to winning. And that really speaks. And I think when you say, like, maybe J.K. Dobbins doesn't want to leave, he looks like
Yeah,
he's having a pretty good time in Denver.
it does.
Yeah, you're right. When we even in retrospect, you kind of look at like the Jerry Jeudy situation, the kind of ugly divorce that happened a few years ago, and those things just don't typically happen to teams that are winning. You don't see guys if on the Chiefs asking for trades. You don't. You see that in Miami. Well, so that is really important to me. And if you're talking about building an organization that wants to win championships, and now you're bringing in guys like Hufanga who literally say, well, what drew you to Denver? Well, Bo Nix. Bo Nix drew me to Denver. I had enough faith in this guy that I was privy to channeling all of my professional talents to making sure that this guy can get to a Super Bowl, because I believe that we can do it together. That's some serious stuff that you're talking about, and I think sometimes it gets overlooked. Broncos fans are probably pretty used to that. Like, well, obviously the playoffs are the expectation. But that's not necessarily the case for every organization in the NFL. So we're just something to be grateful for. I want to talk about a little bit about Bo Nix too. We have to. I think it's still, to me, gets a little bit frustrating when sometimes there's disconnect, whether it's an overthrow or just a bad drop. Evan Ingram had at least 2 plays that I can think of today. One where I felt like he should have had that foot in bounds.
Yeah.
It didn't really matter anyway. And another where he didn't make the catch. And it's got me wondering, well, you're a veteran guy, shouldn't we kind of have this figured out by now? But I guess he just came back from an injury.
Yeah, no, and I think Troutman had one too where he didn't get his. These weren't ones where they were really difficult. They had plenty of room, and they just like, come on, guys. Yeah. And as far as Knicks, I would say by and large he had a good game, and now he had 300 and some yards. The screen game was clicking. Okay, the screen game was.
Yes, finally.
Yes, and the block, the designs were good. They called them at the right times. The blocking was really good. So, but Bo might have got 180, 200 yards just on screen passes today. So, the 300 plus might be a little deceptive. I would say though he threw some really nice dimes. The one on the sideline to Mims was excellent. The touchdown to Court was great. He had the pick.
Yes, another insane court catch, of course. Wouldn't be Denver Broncos football without it.
Perfect body positioning, all that. Now and then Bo did have the ugly pick. I think, I just, and I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying it is what it is. That was on 4th down. I think we have to keep this in mind, because if it's 1st, 2nd, or 3rd down, you throw that pick. Well, you had the field goal in the back pocket when you throw that pick, right? So if it's 4th down, he's scrambling out, and he's if he knows he can't run for it, well, they're not okay. There's this 4th down. So what I'm getting at is you might kind of take a chance there.
Yeah, it just might just as well.
Right. Now they still got the ball at the 20, and I'm kind of splitting hairs here, but I'm just saying. Because we have a history of watching Drew Lock, who is very famous for turning the ball over when you should have got points out of that drive, right? Yep. So I'm saying, by and large, I would say Bo had a good game. And it's, I think we just kind of have to realize that we're still, how we were watching him in his rookie year, week in and week out. We believe in him. He's shown us enough to believe in him, but we're still kind of doing that, and so be it. But I think we've pretty much covered it for this week.
Yeah, I think you're right. And you bring up such a good point with the screen passes, because I personally have what I feel like is maybe a little bit of PTSD when it comes to the screen pass, and that's probably from the Hackett Bowl days. I'm still scarred. I know a lot of Broncos country still is, because it'd be 1st down, you're throwing a bomb. And then 2nd down, you're throwing a screen pass. Run the ball? No way. Another screen pass. And it just never really executed the way that I feel like we wanted it to. And so to see success there, that's so big. The blocking was great today. Then again, we're talking about the Bengals offensive line the Bengals defensive line, which is not necessarily top tier. So I want to keep that into perspective.
Yes.
What I saw from Bo today, which I don't think this is big news, but he has what seems like a lot more success when he just trusts the O-line and plants his feet in the pocket.
Yeah,
I think sometimes he has a little bit of a bad habit of he has pretty good time in the pocket or even
he
ample
did.
time in the
The
pocket.
O-line played exceptional
And
tonight.
yes, and there'll be times, especially the last 4 weeks, where I feel like maybe he scrambles a little bit too early, and then all of a sudden you're in a position where you're now having to make a pass that's not quite as comfortable as if you would have just planted your feet in the pocket after you drop back and flung it out there. And there was success there today. I would love to see them build off of that because I really feel like, he's definitely a guy who I feel like in the 2-minute drill he can make a lot of magic happen and he can move his feet and I appreciate that. But at the same time, for those long, nice, sustained drives, I think it's really important that he actually stays in the pocket and you execute the plays from where you can see everything in front of you and you're not under pressure. Yeah, always. We're still Bo believers through and through. We would like any little other thing else that you want to add about the game, just broadly before we
Um,
kind of switch
well,
notes.
I okay. There were still more. It seemed like they've cleaned up the penalties a little bit, but there were still a few.
Wattenberg has not.
Wattenberg, poor Wattenberg. Nobody hardly knows his name, and he's on Monday Night Football. He's the bad guy, right? Um, okay, yeah. I do have to gripe about one thing because we're seeing it. We're seeing it almost every week, and then we saw it twice, once in the first half and once in the second half, where we had to burn a timeout to avoid a delay of game. And hey, far be it from, we don't want to call out the coaching. The coaches know more than us, but sometimes I got to ask, Sean, can you just, you know, cut back on the terminology or whatever it is, or what's going on? You know, this is Bo's a second-year guy. All the reports were that Bo's got that figured out. In training camp. Well, yeah, Bo's easy. You go. Well, why? What's going on? Why are we taking these timeouts? It's a matter of time before we're going to be down by 4 points, and there's going to be 28 seconds left, and we're going to have no timeouts when we could have had one timeout.
Mm-hmm.
But we had some kind of misunderstanding getting the play. And so, I get impatient about stuff like this because these guys get paid. It's not like they're getting all of them. The coaches, Sean Payton, Bo Nix, these guys get paid millions of dollars. When you don't see a play get in on time, it is frustrating. So I'd like to see them clean that up. I'm kind of ranting a lot after a loss. I don't know what's going on. I'm sorry, I'm ranting a lot after a win. I don't even know how to speak.
Yes.
Yeah, but it was a good game. It was a good game. The defense was excellent. The offense was
Mm-hmm.
good. It's the Bengals. We have to keep it in mind, but it was a good
Yeah.
get right game, right? And
Yes. And that's how you should beat teams like the Bengals.
right.
I said this last week in our episode that, we talked about this week's matchup, and I said very plainly, like, if we don't handily beat Cincinnati, I think there's going to be some red flags. There's going to be some concerns. So, yeah, it's not just about beating the Bengals. There were even times where I felt like maybe we should have put that game away even earlier. I just wanted there to be no hope. I wanted it to be I can walk out of the sports bar and not even have to check my phone about the score because I know that we're good to go. I don't necessarily want it to be 23-3, late in the third. So, if this ended up being a 17-21 game, we'd be having a very different conversation right now. So that's something to keep into perspective. You need to beat, I don't want to say bad teams, with the Bengals especially, you
Right
never
now
know
they're a
what
bad
they could
team.
be, I guess.
Yeah.
Right now they're a bad team, and so you need to beat bad teams the way that
Yes.
the Chiefs or any other good team would beat bad teams. On that note, I want to take a look just briefly at the Broncos' upcoming schedule. We're just going to look a little bit ahead the next 4 games. Next week, so it's going to be a short week for us. Sunday morning is in Philly. That following week, we're going to be, I would say Hackett Bowl, but I believe he's gone. I don't know what
Yeah.
has happened
Yeah,
to
he's
him, but
somewhere else
I know
now.
he's not in New York.
I think he's back in Green Bay.
Oh, you know what? I think he's a consultant,
Yeah.
whatever that means for
Yeah,
Green
so
Bay.
he's
I think
still
that means
working.
he plays
Good for
Candy
Hackett.
Crush in the press box. Yeah. Um, and so we 2 weeks in New York. Or sorry, no, we're gonna be in New York for the Jets, and then we're home against the Giants, and finally we're gonna host the Cowboys. And I think that's a really interesting 4 weeks that the Broncos have. Before they get into some really serious, especially like AFC games. I feel like they got the Texans and the Raiders just after that. So this week against the Eagles is automatically, I you got to pin that one because to me, I think that's actually very exciting.
I agree.
In my experience, these I don't care how much hype the Eagles have. I don't care. They're far away in the NFC, and many a times when these AFC NFC teams collide, you actually might be surprised with what the outcome is like. So I'm really excited for the Philly game personally.
Well, yeah, I as well. Because hey, we want we want our team to go deep in the playoffs, right? So these are the kind of teams we have to measure ourselves against. And I've got a lot of respect for the Eagles. I think Barkley is a beast. I want to see how we stack up against him. Our old buddy Vic Fangio calling the shots on defense. I want to see how. Um, yeah, I'm really excited. There's another thing that um, that the Eagles they beat the Chiefs. All of the West teams have to play the Eagles this year. So if we find a way to beat them, then we kind of steal one. And we gain ground on the Chiefs
Right.
effectively. You know what I mean? Because they didn't
Mm-hmm.
beat them, and then the Chargers and the Raiders still have to play them. So yeah, I'm very excited for this game. I think the Broncos certainly have a puncher's chance to win it. And even if they don't, they're at 2-5. It's an NFC loss. Okay, get back to the drawing board. Go to play the Jets, play the Giants, get our momentum back. Yeah, and it's just after those last couple of losses, we needed to win this one. Just to kind of keep pace because goodness, the climate kind of shifted in the AFC West. A lot of with
Yeah.
the Giants coming through, helping us out. And speaking of which,
Mm-hmm.
shout out to all the Charger fans, right? Because we got so much love on our last podcast from mostly Charger fans. We got a lot of views, and the Charger fans were giving us messages, and so we appreciate that. We appreciate the engagement, and yeah, on some level can even sympathize because man, that Alt getting hurt on their offensive line, that was a big
Mm-hmm.
deal. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't, for the life of me, because I'm hopeful that the Giants could beat them, but I'm like, uh, quarterback making his first start against a top defense
Oh
like
my
that,
God.
and but this is the NFL, and we see it every year. We see an 0-3 team beat a 3-0 or something like that. It just seems that's just things just balance out sometimes that way.
Mm-hmm.
But so the Chargers all of a sudden, and they're still in the they still have the inside track. They're still first place.
Mm-hmm.
They're still 3-0 against the West, but definitely concerns if they can't keep Herbert upright. I mean, I don't know how severe the injury is to Alt, but if he can't get back in there, it could be tough. It could be really tough on them. So
Yeah. That's true, and I think it was. I'm not sure if there's actually confirmation about what the injury is, but from what I remember, it's an ankle injury. It's
mhm.
excuse me, an ankle injury.
A sprain, yeah,
Honestly, with those, it's hard to know.
right.
Yeah, it could be something
How
as light as a
severe?
sprain, or you could have really messed something up. So, yeah, actually, this is just a little bit of a tangent, but there's been kind of a few really substantial penalties. The Giants, of course, Malik Neighbors,
Yeah,
probably what's going to be a season-ending injury. And we've actually talked about this, I believe, maybe episode 2, about the turf issue. And at some point, Joe Burrow, of course, and now this guy, and I'm sure several others, you just got to wonder at what point do these million-dollar orgs or ownerships or whatever, at what point is grass just going to be the standard?
Yeah, you would
It's such
hope.
a shame to see these kinds of things happen. I mean, obviously, I'm sure everyone listening saw the really horrendous injury to Tyreek Hill today, happening at the same time as our game, double header for Monday night, and it's never. You just don't want to see that ever, no matter who it happens to. So. The Broncos have been fortunate to not have suffered in the injury category because for many a year we have.
Right.
Year in and year out. It's, losing Vaughn before the season even started, and then Chubb not even that long after that. You never even get to see those guys play together. So we've had our fair share of the injury purgatory.
The Chargers, in recent years, the Chargers have been hit pretty hard. Last 3, 4, and
Yes,
then this year, And I don't want to carry on about this, but they kind of came out firing with Herbert, right? Like Harbaugh's always been a defensive run the ball guy, so he mixes it up this year. Now he's firing it, and now I don't know. Maybe they have to revert back to pounding the ball. I don't know. We'll see. It's it's early, and maybe they have guys. It's just that the thing is quality starting offensive tackles don't grow on trees. Well, if you lose them and you don't have them have good backups, and they were already on their backup,
Yep.
you just nobody's coming to save you, So, but
Yep, that's true, and that's definitely something that defensive coordinators are always going to try and attack. It's a weakness that you just got to exploit. That's just the nature of the game. So let's take a quick look into some AFC West standings. Chargers are on top, like you mentioned, sitting at 3-1. The Chiefs and the Broncos are tied at 2-2. And what a surprise! Who's 1-3 there at the bottom?
The Raiders are struggling. Geno Smith is struggling.
They are.
But I think we looked at the Raiders as the most guaranteed team to improve because they brought in Pete Carroll, they brought in Geno, but at the same time they're working. We knew they had offensive line issues, they still do, and it's anytime you're bringing in a new guys, and it's still week 4. This would appear to be a season where they're kind of rebuilding and figuring things out. We'll see. And then with, and it's so we don't want to have the overreactions, right? But we are 4 weeks in, where it's kind of almost a quarter of the season, and we do kind of see the West shaping up. I mean, the Chargers took the lead, but now the Broncos got a much needed win against a bad team, and the Chiefs just took it to Baltimore. And here we go with our Chiefs time.
That was quite a shame.
Yes. So, and I think and this is just in the interest of being real and reasonable. We of course we never root for the Chiefs, but for like 2 years, they can't score points, yet they're winning ball games.
Mm-hmm.
And then somehow they're going against Baltimore, they score points. And that's a team where, you're going to have to score points because Baltimore usually scores. So we need to be taking the Chiefs super seriously. I feel like if we had to rank the teams in the West right now, and it's just right now, this is week 4, okay? I'm not saying this is how I think it's going to end up. But I think right now, after 4 games, the Chargers are number 1. They should be. They've beaten all 3 of the other teams. They had a rough game in New York, but other than that, they've taken care of business. So put them at 1. The Broncos and the Chiefs are both 2-2, but the Chiefs are the defending champs, and the Chiefs just took it to Baltimore. We don't have a win like that. I'm going to put the Chiefs number 2, Broncos number 3, Raiders number 4. And like I say, I hope that changes.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I strongly think that it will. For everyone listening, before I give away mine, if you guys would like to rank the AFC West, either how they stand now or how you think things are going to shape up, we would love to hear from you. Please let us know in the comments. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hopefully you're putting that the Broncos are there at the one spot come week 17. But we'd love to hear from you guys. And clearly we have a little bit of a Charger following, so it's okay to hear from you guys too. I agree. I have to agree that the Chargers are definitely looking like the strongest team in the AFC West and maybe even the larger AFC at this point. I'm not really sure. Maybe the Bills can contest for that.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
for sure.
let me think who's number one in the North. The Steelers, I think that's just, I wouldn't hear that argument. And Indianapolis, I believe, in the
Yeah.
South.
When do we start taking the
No.
Colts seriously, you know? I mean, maybe not quite, but,
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
they
if you're
beat
going
us.
to take the Colts seriously, are you going to take the Jaguars seriously? They're
Yeah.
3-1 too. So it's that week 4 caveat, you know. It's yes, it is week 4 and 25% of the season, but at the same time, do I think that the Jaguars are going to be in the playoffs? No. I
Yeah.
think Indy has a good shot.
I feel like
So
there's
go ahead.
I feel like there's some teams that we kind of know, like I think we can say that the Lions are good because the Lions have been good for
Mm-hmm.
2, 3 years, and then they're just, they've been crushing teams. But I think some teams we need to wait till about week 7 or 8 till we know. And I think the Colts and even the Broncos are kind of in that category, you know. And then there's some teams that we know just aren't very good. I think that the Bengals are one of those, you know. But then like there's some
Yeah, the
teams,
Jets, of course.
yeah, yeah. So it's, but we still don't want to be overreacting, you know. It's week to week right now, and I think this week kind of shows that because, I was hearing things like, oh, the Chargers have a stranglehold on the division. Well, this was just a couple days ago, right? Okay, and I get it. But now all of a sudden, after 1 week, they lost. The Broncos and the Chiefs win. Each of those teams are just
They're
one
only a
game,
game behind.
yeah, just one game behind with a game against them at home where this AFC West, no matter what happens outside of it, it's going to be decided in the interdivisional games. I think that's almost a guarantee.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the
I think
Chargers do have
especially
a
in
head
the
start.
West.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? You got to give the Chargers their flowers. They look like a serious football team. And but I have to agree with you with the Chiefs as well. I am somebody who I hate it just as much as the next guy, especially being a Broncos fan. But the Chiefs are the Chiefs. And Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes until proven otherwise. And he's not been proven otherwise, at least not in the AFC West.
And they have they
I
got
think
their wide
it's
receiver back too. What is
Xavier
his
Worthy.
name? The Chiefs.
No.
They got the wide receiver that got hurt week 1. Was
Yeah, Xavier Worthy.
Worthy, yeah. And so all of a sudden, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the Chiefs have this really sick habit of kind of tricking everybody into thinking that they might not be a serviceable football team and then still being the number one
Right.
seed. So at this point, if you've been watching football for long enough, you just have to put a little X in the postseason slots, in my opinion, until they're just not there. And I won't really believe it until they're not. Now, I really don't want to end this really nice Monday
On
evening
the Chiefs.
by talking about the Chiefs or
Right.
the Chargers for that matter. We've
Right.
been giving the Chargers a lot of props, but at the end of the day, we know what they did to us, and we're not happy about it. So let's just kind of assess a little bit of our final thoughts. I think you and I are both feeling a lot better after today, and if there was any way to set us up for Philly, this was it.
Indeed. Yeah. I think you nailed it. We're feeling good. We're going to Philly. We're 2-2. It's, I just really anxious or excited about the rest of the season, So,
Yep,
yeah.
with everything in front of you too. I hope that this game has been a little bit eye-opening to some people who might have been a little trigger happy on the Bo hate train the last 2 weeks. The play calling hate. I think
Right.
that argument has kind of been settled, especially these last 2 weeks, I hope. Um, and that's kind of typical, when your team wins, especially handedly like this, it's easy to uh, maybe puff them up a little bit. And then, of course, when they lose it, you want to point the finger. You want to feel like you know where that went wrong. Um, but realistically, the way that I see, a Super Bowl winning football team is it's like when you're at a slot machine and each of those numbers are coming down, each one just has to be a seven or whatever it is at the casino. They have to all match. And I think the odds of doing that are obviously better than it would be in a casino, but that's kind of the idea is all of these different puzzle pieces have to
Right.
click into place.
Well,
And I think the Broncos are inching closer and closer to that.
yeah, no, you're right. And I think staying healthy is one of them too. When you talk about this, I would say that's one of the three things. Being healthier, at least, all teams have some injuries, but when you just get devastated with injuries, it's hard. I don't know, you may not remember this too much because you were young, but when we went to the Super Bowl against the Seahawks and we got crushed, we didn't have Von Miller or Chris Harris Jr. in that game.
Mm-hmm.
So those things matter. So there's that, and then there's, yeah, like you said, there's, are you playing? Are you talented? Are you being coached well? Are they peaking at the right time? And then sometimes a ball bouncing your way, or a lot of those things. Yeah, you're very right. What the teams can control is how hard they work, how well they prepare, how well they're coached, and how well they execute. But there are other things that go into it. So yeah, I like our chances. But I think we both also know that we're not there yet. We're not there yet, or he's not
Right.
right. But I mean, I don't
He's
think,
not there
yeah,
yet.
we're not there yet. But I think our hope is based upon the talent on our roster, the leadership that we have, and that we can we're a good football team now that can get better, and then get into those playoffs with some experience from last year, and then make some noise. And we'll see how it goes. It's just more than anything, it's just exciting to be realistically thinking playoffs, right? So,
Yep. And have that be an actual expectation. And the reason why we even want to talk about these games is because we're trying to analyze what is it going to take to get to that next level and how do
yes,
we need to be beating these teams. Not so that, for whatever strange. And I will say this, you and I have always been, even the Drew Lock days, the Hackett days, for you and I, there was always a way to
right.
the playoffs, no matter what. It's just nice to not feel quite as insane
We're not
for
forcing it as
feeling that
much now.
way.
No.
Yeah,
Yes.
not like
Yeah.
trying to
Um,
cherry pick.
yeah. So, anyways, if you guys want to hear us further talk about how we think the Broncos are going to make the playoffs, be sure to like and subscribe. Tell your friends about the Generation Orange, and I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you're right. It's we're new obviously and we're having so much fun and we'd love to keep doing this and especially interact with you guys more. I think
Right.
that's totally been the most rewarding part so far.
Yes.
And we at this time, we're trying to hone in the most on interacting with you guys and the best way to do that is if we're able to get to 100 subscribers, we can
Yes.
go live. In which case, all of you guys can chime in on the chat, say, Adriana, I think you are the worst ball knower ever, or whatever you want to
Whatever
say.
it is.
Whatever it is, we really appreciate some ball history if you have anything to add or any good
Right.
memories.
Absolutely.
One of the big points of this podcast is this is my dad, who's my senior, of course, and so this is kind of knowledge that he's passed down to me. It's the Generation Orange. So I'd love to hear from you old heads or you young people, whatever you like.
Everybody.
Anything.
And by the
Everybody
way,
is welcome.
we and because I know how it is, I've been through YouTube on a YouTube video, and they're always, please like and subscribe. And it might be something that I need to learn about something, but I'm not ever going to be interested in their other videos, so I don't subscribe. And guys, but the thing is, if you just subscribe and then maybe in a couple of weeks you can unsubscribe, we just really need that. We're at like 86. We need 100 followers to go live. So if there's ever a time to subscribe to one that you might not normally do, this is the time. So yes,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Can you tell that we really want to go live?
right. Well, we had like 800 views on our last video and only like 6 new subscribers. So I don't know, but we are blown away that so many Charger fans checked us out. It's just so cool.
Well, maybe we'll get some Cincinnati fans up in this one. To Cincinnati, it sucks. That's all I really have to say. I feel like a lot of sympathy for the Cincinnati Bengals. I feel like it's probably very frustrating. You've got two of, like I mentioned earlier, probably the greatest wide receivers in the league. You had what was also one of the top 10, if not top 5 quarterbacks in the league. And to have all that just kind of become abysmal, not only this year, but I think even in years past, that's a
Well,
tough spot to be in as a fan.
you mentioned when Vaughn got hurt a few years ago, how we felt, right? How do you think Joe Burrow? That,
Hmm.
and you're totally right about their wide receivers. I would go as far as to say I'm thinking about the 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 best tandems, and Jerry Rice and John Taylor come to mind. Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt. Hmm. I mean, I'm forgetting some, I'm sure, but they're right up there. These guys, I mean, Jamar Chase is an animal. And by the way, it's just kind of sinking in. I know they had a backup quarterback, but Jamar Chase didn't do much. I was kind of bracing myself because I don't expect Pat to just win that matchup every time, right? Pat's great,
Yeah,
but Chase is a beast, and then
yeah,
Higgins, my goodness, he might be like the fourth or fifth wide receiver, best wide receiver in the league. They are they're amazing, and so yeah, yeah, certainly. I mean, that's tough. That Burrow injury, it's tough for the league, and it's tough for obviously the Bengals fans. So hang in there. He'll be back, and if you did check us out, thank you very much. And we're just Bronco
yeah. We
fans.
appreciate it.
Yep, and you
Yeah,
guys, you
all
guys stuck.
love over here.
Yep, you guys still stuck it to us last year. Oh man, but
Oh, we'll never forget that. Well, we've actually come up on about 52 minutes of talking about the Broncos, which is a little bit of a surprise
that's a
because I
lot.
was thinking, come the third quarter, I'm kind of thinking, oh man,
What are we going to talk about this game?
it's not so much to talk about today. Yeah,
Right.
but we always find a way. It has been so wonderful having you guys along for the ride today. Make sure you tune in next Sunday. We're going to be right here. Uh,
Hopefully live.
Hopefully that the goal is live. Yeah, we
Yeah.
again just love to interact with you guys. In that case, it's really important that you hit the notification bell so that you don't miss when we go live for the first time. We're so excited to just kind of keep on keeping on. It's been so much fun. Make sure once again to tune in next week. This has been Generation Orange.